What's going on, everybody? Noah from Stage 3 Motorsports here, and we are at SEMA 2022, and I wanted to bring you guys our top 3 favorite Tundra builds from the show, which I know we don't typically focus a lot on Tundra, but there's some really good builds here, and we do actually sell a decent amount of Tundra product on the site, so I figured it was worthwhile to just jump in and show off some of these builds. So we're kicking it off here at iCamper's booth with the R4 Tundra, and some of you guys have maybe seen this build on Instagram or followed along with it along the way, but this is it in kind of its final form right now, and this is a really great looking truck. To start things off, underneath it looks like it's got a little bit of a lift sitting on King 2.5 coilovers with those external resis. They've got Chaos Fab upper arms, and then they're on 17-inch Relations race wheels with 37-inch Toyos, so it's a pretty bulked up stance from the factory SR5 stance. And then there's quite a bit of body armor and stuff going on around the truck as well. There's a CBI full front bumper with some Baja Designs lighting in it. They've got the CBI sliders, which look like they've seen some action and some serious trail time, which is pretty cool. And then in the back, they have an up-top rack with, of course, the iCamper setup on that. And then the roof rack's also got a couple different mounts and add-ons with like a Rome case and some things, you know, the typical like Overland accoutrements that you'd expect to see, as well as a whole other suite of Baja Designs lights. They've got LP4s here on the pillars, and then they have a whole row of LP6s across the top. And then to add to all of that lighting, they also updated the headlights to Alpharex units, and those actually blend really nicely with the TRD style grille up front. I think it cleans up the front end a lot because these trucks from factory without any mods on the front are a little bit wonky looking. The styling was definitely questionable to start, but I think once you get it modified and have a look like this, it really comes together, and I love the way that this truck looks. It just has a great presence overall. So obviously there's even more parts here than what I mentioned, and you guys can find a lot of this info online, but it's a great build, well worth checking out, and I think that about covers it for this one, so let's head on to the next truck. All right, so moving on to our second Tundra build. We're here at the Warn booth, which is also Warn, Fabtech, Fab4s, and it'll make a lot of sense when you see the build, but it's all kind of tied together in this truck. This is another, Overland build out, which isn't shocking from Toyota. It's kind of what all of these platforms tend to get turned into, but it is a little bit of a different look than the previous Tundra we just showed you. So this is sitting on the Fabtech 3-inch system with those Dirt Logic shocks. They've still got 37s on here. It's the Nitto Recon grapplers, and then that's wrapped around the new Warn wheels, which I think look really cool. I haven't seen a whole lot of Warn's wheels out in the wild yet, and I know they're still fairly new to market, which I think is why, but they look great on this particular build. And then of course they've got a nice kind of matte dark brown or copper brown wrap with some black stripes. It's pretty subtle, which is generally my style. I think it catches your attention, but it's not in your face and it's not bright lime green or something crazy. So it's a good look on this truck. And then, with it being in this booth with Fab4s, obviously a lot of their body armor is on this. So front, rear bumper, and then the sliders as well. And then they've tucked some Baja Designs lighting in there, a lot of yellow Baja Designs for this build, which is something that I personally like. I've always appreciated the yellow lenses just because I think they look good, but also a little better for cutting through the dust and whatnot. Then in the back, that's where everything kind of turns into the Overland build. You've got that Fab4s rack with an OVS pop-up tent on there. They also threw a fridge in the back, full-size spare, a lot of just the essential equipment. And it's not loaded down with a roof rack or anything on this particular build, which I kind of like. Keeping that roof line clean is a nice way to shave some weight and keep the center of gravity a bit lower on these trucks. So I think it's a pretty smart build overall. Like I said, I like the whole look of it, and a lot of the parts here make sense for the booth that it's at. The only thing I could say that I would knock is the fact that it's definitely clean. This thing looks like a show truck. There's no bumps and bruises on this one, so I hope that they are actually taking it out and it sees some time on the trail. But yeah, for what we're seeing here in the booth, I think it's an excellent build, which is why we wanted to show it to you guys. So that's all I've got on this one. Let's move on to the third truck. So we're at the back of the Overland experience now, and we have Rhino Rack's Tundra behind us. They've got this thing set up with their awning pulled out and a couple chairs here, so I figured I'd get comfortable for this one and take a load off. But this build is a nice, pretty approachable Overland build that isn't quite as decked out as some of the other trucks at the show, which might sound like a downside, but I think for those of you who are maybe looking at getting a Tundra or interested in some of these parts, this is going to be a little bit closer closer to what you might be able to put together at home. Right off the bat, it looks like it's sitting on just a little bit of a spacer leveling kit in the front, maybe about an inch or a half inch of lift, not much. It's a pretty normal stance, and they've got KO2s on there with KMC wheels, so it looks good. It's a little more aggressive than factory, but definitely not as wild as some of the setups with, you know, Kings and 37s and stuff like that. Then for body armor on this truck, there's C4 bumpers front and rear, as well as these step sliders on the sides. And then of course, with this being Rhino racks build, they have a whole slew of options for roof racks and bed racks, and then all of the pieces to go onto that. So obviously, like I pointed out, we're sitting underneath their awning right now, mounted to the side of what looks like one of their Pioneer trays. And then they've also got some traction board mounts on there. They've got a bunch of stuff going on in the bed with their bed rack system, a CVT tent, and then a whole lot of other gear tied in. So as we're kind of panning around it, you guys are obviously seeing everything that's on there. I can't go through all of the mounts right now, but it's one of those things that Rhino Rack does really well, is sort of building out an ecosystem and then giving you the accessories to mount the stuff that you have or the things that you need to take with you. So really like the look of the build. And then honestly, one of the highlights for me is the little Toyota badge at the front that has the Rhino horns on it. I think it's such a cool little touch, just kind of one of those goofy things that gives the truck a little more character. Well folks, I think that's going to be a wrap on this top 3 Tundras build video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed these trucks. I think there's a lot of cool stuff here, and these were just the 3 that kind of stuck out to me as we were walking around the hall. Like I said before, I'll try and put some links down below if you want to check out some of these parts that we have at stage 3. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and if you stuck it out to the end, I especially appreciate that, and I'll see you guys next time.